Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School. And as you know, in the Black Business School, we talk a lot about all different kinds of investing. And you guys know that I believe that one of the pillars of wealth, one of the most important things you can do when it comes to wealth building is to learn where the money's at. And one area where the money is definitely located is in the field of real estate. And one man who knows a little bit about that is my special guest today, Mr. Dwayne Hirsch. Now, Mr. Hirsch is he runs Hirsch Network Real Estate, which is brokered by EXP Realty. He's also on the executive board of the Small Business Advocacy Council. And without further ado, I want to welcome my good brother, Mr. Hirsch. How you doing today, man?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, brother. I'm doing great. I'm really happy to talk to everybody, and everybody who's watching, do me a favor. Andrew, I see you're in here. Shout out your city. Shout out what city you're coming from. Shout out the name of your business. Tell us what your dream is. Tell us what your goals are. Tell us what you're doing right now so that everybody can know it. Everybody can see that there are a lot of other Black folks doing great things. And make sure you hit the thumbs up button. If you're watching online on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. So, Mr. Hirsch, let's start with your background in terms of how you got to be where you are now. You had a great event in Hyde Park,
Yes.
networking event, and I was invited. I was honored to be an invited guest, and I appreciate that very much. And I just had a great time. I mean, just all these intelligent Black folks there, just doing amazing stuff. And I know that was my experience, but how did that all come to be? Tell us about your background.
Yeah, so several years ago, back in 2008, 2009, I was doing wholesale and a lot of things that people are talking about now in terms of real estate investing. I was doing at that time, and like a lot of people did, I lost my skin in the crash. And after it was over, because I wasn't prepared for it, I had been really, really working hard to figure out what I was going to do next. I didn't believe that real estate was gone forever. I thought it was going to come back quicker than it actually did. But when it didn't, I had to start to look for other things to do. A lot of the personal development material that I began to listen to at the time, Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich, his Mastermind Alliance concept, the science of getting rich and things like that. You notice that at that time, those types of messages were really, really loud at that time, studying the law of attraction. So I was immersing myself in that every day. And eventually I came across an opportunity to invite people to come to an event that a young lady was having in the South Loop. And the thought just crossed my mind, hey, what if I invite a few people here next week? She was like, hey, it'd be great. And that it built and started to grow, and it mushroomed into what is now, an event that's been going on for the last 10 years solid. We were doing it every week for 2 years straight, took a short hiatus, then came back and have been doing it every month ever since then.
Man, I loved it. I thought it was great. And then, sorry, give me a second. My computer's taking a life of its own. There we go. All right, sorry. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that, man.
That's all right.
Background. I really felt that I feel like that magic happens when you just get intelligent Black folks together and everybody's, on the same page and doing great things. And I just think in general, Black people are an intelligent people. But sometimes, sometimes some of us have different focus than others, and we apply our intelligence in different ways. But when I was at the event, I remember the people I met, everybody was doing something. Everybody had some sort of business venture, some sort of real estate thing that they were into. And it seems to me like that's a powerful way to build an economy, when there isn't one provided by outside communities. What do you think about that in terms of the amount of business that folks are doing with each other because they're coming to the networking events?
Yeah, funny thing you say that, right? So when I started hosting networking events, we started to get to a point where we had like 100, 150 people. When we moved to the West Loop location, we were getting that every week. And it wasn't until a guy kind of came to me, I was still at that point just kind of doing it because it was fun. I was meeting people starting to know who I was. So it was kind of fun, and I wasn't focused yet on it, in certain ways. So I didn't realize the impact that it was having. We were using this talk show format like the one you and I were in. But at that time, we were interviewing just like people who were just starting out. They were just on the verge of really trying to do something great. And a guy came to me, he said, man, do you know that millions of dollars worth of business are being done from the people in the rooms that you've been putting together over these years? And I just put it in perspective, like, hell, nobody cut me a check, but okay. I'm happy that the impact has been made. But I do believe in communal investment and that idea that we can build. And a lot of my subsequent talks about equity crowdfunding and things like that have all been built around this idea of us having a strategic means by which we come together and start to do business with one another through primarily through the proper exchange of value, though, not just blindly through blind support.
Yeah, well, and by the way, everybody, if you just tuned in, welcome to the Black Financial Channel. I'm speaking with Mr. Dwayne Hirsch. He's the CEO of Hirsch Network Real Estate, brokered by EXP Realty. He's also on the executive board of the Small Business Council. And we're talking about getting started as a real estate investor. And so I want to ask you about something, man. I just got my first statement of the year from the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, started by Jay Morris. Are you
right? Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, and so just because we have frank conversations, what when you saw what Jay was doing with the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, what were your thoughts on that? And feel free, don't think you have to say all good or all bad. Just lay it out there. I'd love to get your expert analysis on it.
Well, so for me, it was a really, really great sense of excitement about it, because for one, what Jay did by doing that was validated something that I have been saying to people here in Chicago, at my events and otherwise, through our lobbying for equity crowdfunding and my belief in that as a strategic way out of the trap for us. I thought it was great because he actually proved that it's not like he took the idea I had or anything. It's open source information. But what I started doing was talking about it. What I did was I started to frame it in this hyper local context, right? And say, well, if we took an area between 47th and 55th from King Drive to Cottage Grove and strategically bought and built out the businesses in that area using equity crowdfunding, we could turn our situation around literally overnight. And what Jay did by raising that money as quickly as he did was to show and prove that that can actually happen, even though you see the evidence in other places every day. Not to say that it's a white or black thing, but white people and companies are raising this money all the time. If you go to sites like WeFunder and Fundrise, and that's been the way that they funded major projects over all these years. So one of the benefits of being able to do it now as a non-accredited investor is it gives you an opportunity to essentially have, if I spoke about it in a broader context, a diversified portfolio of neighborhood operated businesses that are essentially made public by being funded through equity crowdfunding. So you essentially own stock in those companies.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is that, when you're talking about, equity crowdfunding, things like that, I like what Jay did too, because as you said, it kind of just reminded us of the power of our money. When every time they recite that 1.3 trillion in spending power, that makes me squirm a little bit, because that's 1.3 trillion that we're giving away every year. We're raising, over $1 trillion a year, but we're raising it to give it away to other people, right? And also I also think about like another crowdfunding project was the movie The Black Panther. Disney put this movie out, and Black folks spent, I think, about 700 million out of the 1.4 billion that the movie made. So it shows that when we are really interested in building something, when we see the value in it,
absolutely,
it's like no other. We're able to do amazing things. And so I was curious to get your take on some of this. What I've also observed is that even with the change in the laws and making equity crowdfunding easier to do, there's still some administrative hurdles in terms of dealing with, security regulations and stuff like that for raising money. What's stopping lots of more of these projects from being done? Like for example, you and I are talking as brothers. What's stopping you from saying to me, hey, Boyce, I got this equity crowdfunding thing. We're going to go buy up, 2 blocks in the city of Chicago. Just tell everybody what to do and tell them to sign here. What's stopping that from happening or making that sort of a very simple process?
Man, great question. So when the law was passed that originally made it federally legal in 2012 through the Jobs Act, the rules for that, the SEC was very slow to write the rules for that. The rules for that didn't actually get written until 2015, and it became a functional law in May of 2016, I believe. Now, What states began to do and what the SBAC lobbied for was what's called intrastate equity crowdfunding, where the rules are a little bit different. You can raise more money. There is a higher amount that every individual can invest in a project. So several states started to pass their own intrastate rules. Now, to answer your question though, the hurdle in it is this. It's a little bit expensive to file the legal paperwork that you have to file in order to raise money from that many people. One of the other hurdles is that, you know, when you have, it makes exits difficult because if 5,000 people, for instance, put money in a project, how you're going to do your distributions and manage that on a cap table becomes very challenging for the business owner, especially when you're trying to do say a short to midterm exit where somebody else is coming to put bigger money in behind, you know, a cap table with 100, 200, 500 people on it. So different companies have now started to form these special purpose vehicles where they would take a bundle of 1,000 investors and instead bundle them up into one or two groups to make it one or two investors on a cap table. So people have tried to simplify the process through and through. Now, the other challenge to that is the marketing aspect, because marketing a project, if you're trying to raise $1 million, for instance, it's going to cost you somewhere around $30,000 or more, depending on how big your own individual network is, to actually get the word out, advertise it, have people go look at it, evaluate it, and then hopefully invest. So what it really takes, from my point of view, I've always said this, is it takes validation. So in other words, our people can get a little bit funny sometimes when you start to talk about things that they're not familiar with. And so now we want to overstudy it. So when I tell you, you can invest in a real estate project to buy a building on your block for as little as $100, now you want to take a 6-month study to figure out whether or not, oh, is this something, or you're waiting to see how many of your neighbors are going to be involved. It's what I teach in my master class about conformity. We're looking for other people to tell us that this is real. So the political leaders who actually pass the laws, when they talking about job creation and all this, they're not telling people, hey, use equity crowdfunding and rebuild your own community. They're leaving it to us to figure that out. And so Dwayne Hirsch and Omari Kamal, other people that have been out there blowing this trumpet a bit, we're still blowing it to a group of people who largely don't have the funds to actually make the project itself real. You damn near got a crowdfund to start a crowdfunding project. You know what I mean? So, but in this sense, the risk is worth it, or the investment is worth it, because in this sense, everybody that puts something in either owns a piece of it, or if it's structured like as debt, you get a return on that money. So just imagine something for a minute. Let me give you a scenario. All of us have got in a neighborhood not far from us, a 20 unit, 30 unit, 15 unit apartment building that's vacant, empty, dilapidated for years. You might be able to buy that if it's city owned. You could even leverage the public support of the project to get the city, to leverage the city to give it to you. Now you put $500,000, you raise $500,000, $700,000 for this project now, and you structure it as debt, and now you can pay distributions on the rent to the people who live in the community where that building is on. So now instead of throwing cigarettes on the ground, people are picking cigarettes up off the ground. If you put that money and invest in a store, now when somebody run out of the store stealing something, you're not just letting them pass and waving at him as he go by. You're gonna stick your foot out and trip him, because your aunt, your grandmother now own a piece of that store. Ownership changes everything in the way that we think. And so the answer, or the way to get out of the trap for us, I think, is through a rapid acceleration in ownership of businesses, not just through equity crowdfunding, but owning businesses in whatever spectrum and being broader in our thinking. We all can't be contractors. We need people to own dry cleaners and coffee shops, donut shops, all of these different things that we've been historically spending our money elsewhere. We need those businesses to come back and be owned by us so we can employ our own people and thus create a greater impact.
I love that. By the way, everybody, I want to welcome you to the Black Financial Channel. The URL is theblackfinancialchannel.com. Everybody who's watching, please give a thumbs up and please welcome our special guest, Mr. Dwayne Hirsch. Hit that thumbs up button on YouTube a lot, because that matters. That brings more people into the conversation. As you guys know, our goal is to promote intelligent Black media throughout the world. This is an intelligent brother that we have on the podcast today. And also, everybody who's watching, I want to remind you that that the All Black National Convention takes place the weekend of September 27th in Houston. So mark it on your calendar. And you can find out more by going to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. So, Mr. Hirsch, let me kind of ask you about this now. In terms of equity crowdfunding and things like that. And I agree with you. I think that it just seems to me that there's so much opportunity there in terms of just things that we can buy literally with the money that we might spend on fast food.
Right.
If you just literally took the money that, if you got, 1,000 Black folks to just do a matching funds where whatever you spend going out to eat, put that same amount in a savings or an investment account to so we can raise money to go buy a building or whatever it is. Those opportunities are out there. It seems almost like to some extent, education is an important component as well, that we still have some work to do in terms of teaching or reminding everyone of the value of ownership and that ownership is a possibility. It seems to me that a lot of us don't become homeowners because we just don't believe that that's doable for us, that's just too high of a task. As a real estate expert yourself, what do you run into in terms of like if I said to you, for example, if I said, it seems to me that a lot of people who can afford to buy a home at some point just don't ever do it because they don't believe they can afford to buy a home. What would you kind of say to a statement like that?
I would say that what they haven't done is they haven't either availed themselves to information that can help them get across that mental bridge, or they have not just sat down and dug into the process well enough to know. I run into homeowners all the time that people who are coming to me now to buy who just figured out that they could do it. Sometimes they'll call and say, oh, my credit's kind of okay. Then you have a loan officer take a look at it and they got a 700 credit score and didn't even realize it because they're not, if it's not something that has to be top of mind, you don't even know, or you don't even know at least how close you are. So I always tell people, even if they think that their credit is bad and they got all these other problems, call the loan officer, talk to them and let them tell you, hey, if you're not qualified, here's the things that you can do to get qualified in a month, 3 months, a year, whatever that time frame might be. And everybody has a path to home ownership. It's not always immediate. It may be a year down the road or more, but everybody has a path to that. And you should start that path today. I would encourage anybody to start going down that path today, because even if it takes a year, hell, you're still going to need it then. You're still going to need the advantage of that at that time. So yeah, you want to get ready for that, because that's really the benchmark of your own wealth building in life is what you own in terms of real estate. Oh, your sound went out. I can't hear you.
Sorry, sometimes I mute myself so you don't hear. If I'm moving papers around, I don't want that to interrupt what you're saying. Sorry about that, guys. So you do work with a company called eXp Realty, yes. And you were telling me about the unique business model with eXp. Can you kind of speak to that model and kind of how that works?
Yeah. So just like other industries have, been flipped on their head and disrupted over the last several years, like what Netflix did to Blockbuster and what Amazon did to Circuit City and all of those other places like that, and what Uber did to taxi cabs, it stands to reason that that's going to cross itself across every go across every industry spectrum. And now it's hit real estate, not just from the perspective of the buyer, where you can now go to all of these websites and search for a home yourself, but now it's actually hit the agency side. So if you're in Chicago or any city you're in, if you go to a Coldwell Banker office or Keller Williams and they got these big, beautiful, fancy offices, that office is typically a franchise operation, right? And the person that owns that franchise is paying fees to the larger company. And those fees are the money that are coming out of your deals when out of your commission. So they may give you a 70-30 split as a new agent, or a 60-40 split as a new agent with that company. But the percentage of the commission that goes to the company actually goes to support this big cushy office. So what eXp did was to build a model where it is one brokerage that operates nationally, and the company owns no real estate whatsoever. None of the people who are in the company as agents own real estate that is related to eXp, or they don't have franchise offices that they sell you and you have to pay all these royalties and fees to them every month, even as an agent sitting in an office. So now I can work entirely from home. Virtual brokerages, first of all, are not something that's new. People have been able to work outside of an office, from coffee shops and places like that for a long time. But this is the key difference. Through eXp World, which is a cloud-based virtual reality essentially system, I and my avatar can go and have a meeting with my managing broker today. I can go have a meeting with my accounting department, the brokerage operations department. I can even meet with the CEO of the firm right there in eXp World starting. It's really a 24-hour operation, but the world actually opens up for business at 8 a.m. Central Time, which is actually earlier than I could go get in meeting here with any of the representatives of any other brokerage that I might represent, if that makes sense. So I have a broader access, and I have access to agents all over the country in eXp World and through and in Canada, because it's actually in Canada now as well, in 3 provinces of Canada. Yeah. So on top of that, what they did was the company went public in 2013 on the over-the-counter exchange. And their stock, you know, like penny stock, started out as a penny stock. And when it came off of the over-the-counter exchange, they went into NASDAQ. We went into NASDAQ in June or July of last year. So what the company decided to do is, hey, we're publicly traded. So what we're going to do is we're going to share stock with our agents based on certain performance benchmarks, based on longevity in the company. And we're going to allow them to purchase equity stock in the company at a 20% discount. So think about it this way. So this is how it works. As a new agent in eXp, when I joined eXp, my first deal every year is going to get me a certain amount of money in company shares on an awarded basis. So if I state those vest in 3 years, so 3 years from now, the stocks that I earned from my first transactions last year are going to mature into tradable stock for me at that value. That was given to me, and all I have to do to get it is to stay in the company for 3 years from the date that I actually earned it. On the second level, they give you what's called equity stock, or not give you, but they allow you to use 5% of your commission from all of your transactions to purchase company stock at a 20% discount. And that stock vests immediately, and you can trade on it. You can move it to your Fidelity account or your Transamerica account, whatever, and actually trade from that account, you know, right there. So I'm actually earning an additional 20% on 5% of every deal I close in this company. And that's not something I had to spend extra money to do. It's all calculated, kept for you right there. You track the stock every day. And essentially what it sets up for me is a retirement plan, a built-in retirement plan. My plan is that I'll probably sell real estate, reasonably speaking, or keep a license for at least the next 10 years. So now that means that once I'm in this company for 3 years, I'll have stock maturing off that awarded basis constantly, while having built up my equity stock through my commissions the whole time. So in a few years' time, as the company builds, grows, the stock price builds and grows, and it spreads internationally, I mean, the earnings that you can get from just that alone is incredible. And then the other element of that is they allow you to achieve shares on the revenue generated by agents that you brought into the company anywhere in the country. So to put that in perspective for you, Boyce, when you and I met, I was an agent at Coldwell Banker, an agent operating in Illinois. If I brought agents into Coldwell Banker, they give you a little nibble off just that one agent. If I wanted to sell a property in California, I have to refer it to an agent in California. They give me a cut. But now I can go and build a team of agents in California in eXp Realty and get paid off everything they do. Whether I know about the deal or not, I don't have to manage it or any of that. Every month, like clockwork, I get a wire transfer into my bank account.
Wow.
From that revenue being shared. And right now, I started in the company last May. Right now, I have 12 agents actively working that I'm earning that revenue share from, and that's growing at a pretty good clip. But you have agents in our company that literally have hundreds of agents that have treed and spooned out from them to where now they're earning thousands of dollars a month through the company sharing that revenue with them. And that's the real significant disruption here, is that instead of me paying that money into a brick and mortar office, Boyce, if you're the one that brought me there, I'd rather see you get a little cut of that bread.
Wow. Well, I like that. Everybody, I'm talking to Mr. Dwayne Hirsch. Dwayne is a real estate expert, among other things. And I have the name of his company, everything right here in front of me. I'll make sure I say it right. He is the CEO of Hirsch Network Real Estate, brokered by eXp Realty. And is it Hirsch Network Real Estate or Hirsch Network Realty?
Real estate.
Real estate. Okay, let's make sure. And he's also on the executive board of the Small Business Advisory Council. And now I want to remind everybody also, if you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please hit the thumbs up button. And also, you're watching the Black Financial Channel. If you want to subscribe, the URL is theblackfinancialchannel.com, theblackfinancialchannel.com. So, Mr. Hirsch, let me ask you about this, about your work with the executive board of the Small Business Advocacy Council. Now, when I was at your Hyde Park networking event, what are those events called? Because I want people to know.
The Hyde Park Happy Hour. The
Hyde Park Happy Hour, okay. And just actually before we move on, how can people, because some people in here are from Chicago, how can they actually look this up and participate?
Yeah, so the Hyde Park Happy Hour takes place on the third Wednesday of each month at the Redfish Bluefish restaurant at 5121 Harper's from 6 to 8 p.m. We only have 5 events left this year, and then we'll be kind of moving into a different networking stratosphere. But that event takes place at the same time. Anybody that's on this broadcast right now, you're welcome to come out. Again, it's 5121 Harper at the Redfish Bluefish restaurant from 6 to 8 p.m. on the third Wednesday. And in May, that's actually May 15th.
Okay, May 15th. All right. And Redfish Bluefish. And what was the time again?
6 to 8 p.m.
6 to 8 p.m. Okay, I want to write that down because I want everybody to know about that, because I think the networking piece is really valuable. I mean, people don't really, and I think you understand this, but a lot of people don't, it seems. They don't know how much economic value is created from networking. A lot of people don't really understand, who your friends are plays a big part in what your money looks like. Yeah. If you got 5 broke friends that are all borrowing money from you, then you become the bank, and you go bankrupt because you're trying to carry all these people. But if you got, 5 friends that can loan you money or can make deals with you, or they can help you get access, they can add value to your life, then you naturally get boosted by that, and it almost seems, and maybe we could talk about that, because I love to hear about your perspective on networking. But, and I've had to deliberately work on that, because I'm naturally an introvert. I'm naturally a little bit antisocial. I'm a mathematician, scientist, sits in the computer. I'm used to sitting in my office on the computer, but what I've learned is that a lot of things that are really hard for you to do on your own, or impossible to do on your own, suddenly become very easy when you know who to tap into and work with, delegate, things like that. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually teach a 3-hour class, or have taught a 3-hour master class on networking. I've been paid by companies to go and teach their employees about networking. And the thing about networking is that, for one, I need to tell you, boys, I've always been a shy person my whole life. Networking became easier for me because I'm able, it's a way of me being able to break through that in a natural, genuine way. When I feel like I have a value proposition to offer someone, it empowers me. When I can go into a place and speak intelligently on the topics at hand, it empowers me. Some of us that don't want to network or feel uncomfortable in those spaces, sometimes we have a kind of a tunnel that we put ourselves into in terms of our information spectrum, right? So in other words, I had never, before eXp Realty and I got those stocks through that company that I'm getting now, I had never bought a stock in my life, but I watched CNBC every day. So when I went and started networking with people downtown, I'm able to speak to topics about the economy and different things like that, they might not either expect me to know about, staying tuned on international affairs and things that serve as conversation pieces with people that are outside your own activity spectrum. So if you're aware of what's going on in the news, for instance, then you can always speak to those topics and use those as bridges to build conversation while you start to attack business, right? The other thing is being very clear on what your value proposition is if you're doing professional networking, right? So if you come to my event, you're going to meet a lot of people, like say, they're in business doing things. So you want to know what your value proposition is. You want to have your little 15, 30-second spiel down so people get a really good sense very quickly of who you are, and then also be able to deliver that from a personable space, not a robotic space. Like, I'm just going to walk around. You don't walk around and just hand people your business card. You know, you make an introduction, a handshake, and you do some things before that. So I teach that on a scientific level. But when you're a person that has an issue or kind of feel like, say, introverted and don't like to get out and just connect with people, I think that a lot of times, if you're in a networking environment and you run into people that are looking to meet other people, all you do is make eye contact with them when they pass. And oftentimes they'll be the first one to introduce themselves to you. And that makes it a lot easier for you to overcome that and make your way through it.
Wow. Well, I really like that. You know, and you're right. I mean, a lot of networking, you know, at least one of my first rules of networking is don't be an asshole.
Right.
Like, you know, just be a nice person. I think at least I believe, I don't know, maybe I'm naive, but I believe that people appreciate authenticity. They appreciate people that are there to offer something and to help them, as opposed to people that just want something from them. I think that, and you're right, though, I think that, you know, that you have to be kind of deliberate in achieving your goals as well. You can't just sort of let things happen, because I've seen times, for example, where people will get in the comfort zone at an event and they'll just talk to the same person for the whole hour or two, and they don't know how to catch, right? And so I think that a lot of that stuff is really important, and I respect what you do with that, and I love what you do with the Hyde Park happy hours. I mean, I thought that was I felt really good being there. I felt like I was with family. You know, I felt good around the people. I felt good talking to you, man. It was awesome. So let me make sure I do the proper housekeeping to make sure people know how to get in touch with you.
Right.
I see that one sister has put in your website, DwayneHirsch.com. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna copy this. Thank you very much, Teresa Purnell. Do you know Teresa Purnell by chance, or
Teresa? That's my fiance. You met her at the event.
Oh,
be one of your
very
guests,
nice.
right?
Okay, well, good to see you again. Very nice to see you. Yeah, so I just copied and pasted the address in there so people can spell it right. Hirsch. Hirsch. That's how you spell his last name. First name is Dwayne. 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 So I hope everybody will go to DwayneHirsch.com and check out what the brother has going on. Also, a reiteration that the Hyde Park happy hours, if you live in Chicago, they're really, really good. 5121 Harper Street. Is that right?
Yeah, Harper Street.
Harper Street at Redfish Bluefish on the third, is it the third Monday or
Wednesday? Third Wednesday
of the month, which in this case is going to be May 15th, 6 to 8 p.m. So everybody, please look that up. May 15th, 6 to 8 p.m. at Redfish Bluefish on Harper Street, 5121 Harper Street. And also those who want to look into eXp Realty, how can they do that?
Yeah, so if you're interested in eXp Realty, I'm going to go out on a limb here, Boyce. I know when I do interviews and things like that, people think I'm crazy for doing it, but I'm actually going to give you my phone number. It's 630-728-2414. That's 630-728-2414. There is also a website that you can go to. It's Dwayne Hirsch. That's DWAYNEHIRSCH .exprealty.careers. CARERRS or EERS.
Right.
DwayneHirsch.exprealty.careers. So yes, thank you.
Well, I really love it, and also congratulations on your wedding. When's the wedding date, and will I get an invitation?
See, you putting me under undue pressure, brother. I didn't even say it was a wedding day. It's not a date yet. Yeah.
What?
When that happens.
Hey, bro, I'm gonna be the last one to put that kind of pressure on you. I understand. Like,
now look, she's gonna be on me when I'm done, right? She's gonna be like, "We need a date, right?"
She's gonna be like, "So when is the date?"
Yeah, so yeah, it's gonna be inside this year. It's something that we're probably gonna do in a semi-private fashion and keep it simple and just express our love for one another and go from there. And that has been I can't say to entrepreneurs enough. If you're struggling with the idea of how to manage love and entrepreneurship, it's a difficult road, but when you get the right one, man, it really does wonders for your life, your stress level, and everything else, for real. Yeah, it does.
Well, I remember seeing your wonderful fiance. She's a very, very nice lady, and I saw her helping you and backing you up and supporting you and everything else. And I think that's great. You know, I'm a big fan of that. You know, I think that does it make things more complicated sometimes a little bit, but then again, everything, it's always going to be complicated no matter which path you pick. You know, I personally think that when you are dating an entrepreneur, it does require you to really understand an entrepreneur is not like a 9-to-5 employee
Yeah.
type. You know,
Wow.
entrepreneurship. You know, if you dating a good entrepreneur who's serious about what they're doing, you know, you got to either help out or get out the way, or you know, or something. But
Yeah.
if you impede the progress of an entrepreneur, then you are becoming the what do they call it, the unstoppable force hitting the immovable object.
Yeah, right.
And it's just an explosion. So yes, I would imagine, I would say to people that date an entrepreneur, either help or get out of the way, one of the two, but do not impede too much, because then you're disrupting and undermining a person's dream.
Mhm.
And then I at least I've seen people become resentful over that, you know?
Yeah, and I think a big part of that, and it doesn't matter whether we're talking about real estate investing, a real estate company, or being in love, or even buying a property, selling, knowing what you want, what you really, really want, not what you think you want, right? Or what you want on this surface. So I tell people that I got more comfortable when I started making that decision based on where I expect to go in life, not where I am right now. And that's I found that to be a better way to make that decision, because, you know, if a person comes in with this temporary construct in your mind, then they're only going to serve a temporary purpose for you. But when you can see 10 years down the road with that person, or you know that they have that ability to help you get to where you want to be in 10 years or 20 years or whatever, that's a much easier decision to make. You know, and for a person that's, and I know a lot of your listeners right now probably have that challenge.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's tough, you know, but then again, life is full of problems, but problems are meant to be solved, right?
Absolutely.
So don't look at your problems like a person that gives up on things, you know, like if you look at your problems like a loser, you see problems as obstacles. I encourage people to look at your problems like a mathematician. I'm a mathematician. We solve problems all day long, and we know that every problem has a solution, or most of them do. And when you see a problem that's difficult, you sit and you think about it and you figure it out, and it always makes you better at what you do. So problems are opportunities to grow, never opportunities for you to give up. You know, so don't even get in that mindset, everybody. So everybody, I want to say thank you guys for hanging out with us. Everybody, please give Mr. Hirsch a digital round of applause. Just say, throw in a quick thank you. Everybody, please hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please do that. Also, if you're interested in financial topics and things like that, that you can use to enhance your family, we actually have financial workbooks for children. The summer's coming, so get your kids, give them something positive to do. So we have financial workbooks for Black children at financialworkbooks.com. That's financialworkbooks.com. Dwayne, have you seen our financial workbooks?
No, I don't think I have.
Let me show you, man. I'm very proud of these because it took us 2 years to put these together. We literally had to put them all together, and then the first time we didn't like it, so we had to go back and do it again. It took 2 years. So we took a year and then realized that they weren't what we wanted, so we had to go back and redo them. But you can see here we've got every grade band covered.
Oh, wow.
Investing, money, and also stock markets. And so you got middle school here, and high school, elementary school, 4th to 5th grade, 1st to 3rd grade. So it's kind of broken into grade bands. We got some Black education experts to help us with
that. That's like that. I feel like almost like I need to read every one of them from first from first grade up, right? Just because you miss having gotten that information in a language that a child could understand, right? So because that was not a part of the conversation in my childhood, I'd be very interested to read how that is presented to somebody in the 1st to 3rd grade level. That'd be very interesting.
Man, well, you know, most complicated financial concepts can be presented to a 1st grader. And the thing is, these are some of our flashcards. These are just a couple of samples of the flashcards, and we have flashcards for entrepreneurs. Some of that. I find that the simple topics or the simple methods of teaching are better, you know, in terms of nailing down difficult concepts than the complicated stuff. Because a lot of people run away from financial literacy because they think it's just this crazy complex thing, and it's just not. You know, I mean, you can explain most financial concepts with cartoons, you know. And so we have digital programs, we have flashcards, we have workbooks, things like that. And we have actually, it surprised me. I thought that everybody who was in the programs would be a child. And I mean, and we really arm these kids to the teeth in terms of making them financial ninjas. Like a child who goes through that program, will be ahead of most college graduates.
Right.
And I'm not making that up. I've taught college students for 25 years. But what we found was it wasn't just kids joining. Like, we have people in there as old as 70 years old, who said, this is great because I get to see the concepts presented in a way that's simple and easy to understand, And so we tried all kinds of methods, man, because what we want is we want financial literacy to be something that not only are Black people not afraid of, but we want people to see it as something that is mandatory, just almost like a rite of passage, stuff like that. Like, I'll show you another thing that we have put together. We had puppet masters create like puppet shows with Black characters to teach financial concepts. So this is like the BMOT family, right? So like you see here, it's like, this, I'm not gonna play the whole thing, but so we have the puppets, and the son talks to the dad, and he's talking about, financial concepts, and it's just really cool stuff, man. It was really fun as a teacher. Like, I was never interested in money just because it was money, like I was never the guy that would sit and watch Bloomberg channel all day and talk about, price earnings ratios and all that. I had to learn all that to get my PhD. But what I found was money became really interesting to me when I started to understand what an impactful tool it is, or weapon it can be, when it comes to your life, managing your life. If your money ain't right, your life ain't right. So anyway, I didn't mean to get long-winded.
No, that's critical though, Doc, because part of the reason for that, when I think about my own upbringing, I grew up in a household where, as an individual, I saw and witnessed at my own self, where people who won and who got more money, in a sense, were actually punished by people in their own community, right? So if you go out and if you're the first person in your family or in your community to go out and get a job paying $100,000 a year, and you let everybody know that, or everybody can see the trappings of that, people are going to start to come to you, ask you for things, or they're going to start to react to the changes in your life. Well, now, he doesn't eat over there no more. Now he eats over there. So he thinks they make succeeding a fucking challenge, man. It becomes a real challenge mentally. It becomes stressful for you to succeed inside your own space. And a lot of people are talking about that in relation to Nipsey and that whole thing about staying where you are. But in my childhood, I didn't get comfortable with money very early, because everybody who had money at that time, like, it was like we idolized celebrities who had a lot of money. But when somebody in the sphere had money, it's like people sit around and talk about him all day. Oh, he bought a big ass house, but his kitchen ugly as hell. It would always be something negative surrounding the person that had money. So I think that psychologically that injures us going down, because in other words, when we hear Dr. Boyce Watkins and we start feeling like, man, I'm excited about money, you're fighting against deeply unconscious settlements in your mind that are basically telling you, no, don't do that, because people gonna hate you. Don't do that. More money, more problems. I heard you talk about the I don't give a F attitude that we get out of hip hop, but that whole more money, more problems thing, and money is the root of all evil. Those type of things give you an unconscious underpinning in your mind that money is a bad thing, or is not. In other words, it's 50-50 with not having money in terms of being able to live a good life and, let's say, make it to heaven, right? It's harder for a rich man, to get to that, that whole thing, very damaging to us mentally. And then when you couple that with the negativity of your parents, that might not really understand money and speak to it in these negative terms about lack. There's not enough. The cupboard is bare, my dad would say. Dad, what's for dinner tonight? Make a wish sandwich. Take 2 pieces of bread, put a little mayonnaise on them, put them together, and wish you had some meat. It was those little unconscious things that constantly made you operate from a position of lack. And that's why, as a people, we operate from the position of victims.
Wow.
Because we always come from lack, from not having. So now you counting on the enslaved, as my brother said the other day, the enslaved to save you, the enslaver to save you from his own enslavement, which is never going to happen. So we have to be strategic about what we do. We cannot, I think that all of this starts to change when it becomes more and more acceptable and validated for us to be this way. A lot of us are scared to be that way because we do feel like, hey, if I start doing all this stuff in the community, white man gonna come after me. One of the NFL players I know, he put up a statistic that said that Broward County, as of this year, has 954 first-round NFL draft picks. You know how much money that is? But if you go through Broward County right now, that's just first-round pick. That don't even count the other rounds, the undrafted, the Hall of Famers who never, you know what I mean? It's a lot. That's thousands of players. But their community is still in shambles.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot, bro. We can go all day. It's a lot. It's a lot out here, but it's all it's all psychological. And if we become strategic and use strategy to overcome the collective psychological disadvantages of our people, we'll make a lot more headway. And you can do that without offending the white man's sensibilities. So for those who are afraid of that, you could do that and actually he'll be like, damn, okay, now I respect you more because you build your own shit. So maybe now you are a taxpayer. Think about this real quick. A police officer that comes to deal with a crime in your neighborhood, if he's in Inglewood, in Chicago, certain parts of Auburn, Gresham, Harvey, places like this where a lot of the population are renters, he could literally think to himself that when he comes to answer your call to serve a crime, he is actually answering the call from a person who his taxes go to support living there. Think about that. So you don't get to come out on the street and say, I'm a taxpayer and I pay your salary. He's saying, no, I'm paying your rent. I'm paying federal taxes to pay your rent. So why is he going to respect you when he come to police your neighborhood? When he's actually paying for you to be there in some cases. And not that we're all on Section 8, but in a lot of his most frequent dealings, that's who he's dealing with.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, everybody is appreciative. I know Michelle is and a few other people. They are very appreciative of what you are saying. Andrew says this man needs to be on their channel regularly. He's spitting game right now. Me and Andrew, we must be brothers from another mother because I was thinking the same thing. So, man, I would love to have you come back, man. In fact, I'm gonna message my assistant and have her make a request at your convenience for you to come back. I'd love to have you back. It's definitely an honor to have you. Yes, and I can tell, and y'all can tell from here, listen to the brother, he's got a lot more that he can say. And he used to host a radio show on WVON, one of my favorite stations. And so I know he's got a lot to talk about. I know he's got a lot of knowledge. So everybody, once again, please give a thank you to Mr. Dwayne Hirsch. Dwayne is the CEO of Hirsch Network Real Estate, brokered by eXp Realty. He's on the executive board of the Small Business Advisory Council. He's an all-around great brother. He hosts Hyde Park Happy Hour in Chicago on the third Wednesday of every month. The next one will be May 15th, 6 to 8 p.m. at 5121 Harper Street at Redfish Bluefish. So you guys should definitely go out. Those events are awesome. Also, some of you are asking about the flashcards and the workbooks that I showed you earlier. If you want to take a look, it's very easy. Go to financialworkbooks.com. Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Awesome. Go to financialworkbooks.com or financialflashcards.com. Financialworkbooks.com or financialflashcards.com. Get your kids busy this summer. This will make a difference for the next 50 years of their life. Go ahead and make that sacrifice to get them, not even a sacrifice, that investment to get your children ready for the future. Because believe me, like the Game of Thrones says, winter is coming. And I don't know if you watched Game of Thrones.
Last night?
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. Man. It was awesome.
Yes. One day we could talk about the esoteric messages in Game of Thrones. There's a lot of underpinned, you're like, right. A lot of psychology going on.
You telling me that there's a lot to talk about with that show. Don't get me started, man. Maybe that could be our next conversation. Maybe next week, if you get some time, you come in, man, we can break down Game of Thrones because there's a whole lot to talk about there. Man, so thank you very much.
I'll make the time. I'll be in touch with her, and we'll get that worked out, Doc. Absolutely.
All right, my man. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with us at the Black Financial Channel. Make sure you subscribe, hit the thumbs up button before you go. TheBlackFinancialChannel.com. That's where we get it done. And don't forget, All Black National Convention, the weekend of September 27th in Houston. Mark it on your calendar. Tickets go on sale next week. See you guys soon. Take care. Thank you again, brother. Have a good day.
All right.
Peace.